When I say get down, get down.
Take the device! Go!
One night in Italy, an intelligence unit conducts a covert operation in a hotel to capture a CIA traitor alive. The unit leader, Roxanne, guides all the agents from a distance while their boss, Tom, watches the operation live at HQ in London under the supervision of CIA Chief Cameron. The agents successfully capture the traitor without any interference and confirm to Roxanne that they have obtained the hard drive. However, the extraction vehicle suddenly explodes, sending everyone into a panic. Roxanne urges the agents to head to the backup extraction point and she will follow them soon. Unfortunately, stray bullets begin to terrorize the agents, ending their lives one by one, leaving Nick to guard the asset. Once they reach the extraction point, Nick falls into a canal hit by a stray bullet that also hits the traitor, and then the mysterious team comes to steal the hard drive. By the time Roxanne arrives at the location, it is too late. The mission ends in failure. The next morning in New Jersey, a guy named Mike wakes up in Nicole's room after a fun night with her. It turns out Nicole was his 7th grade English teacher and Mike is now dating her. Then he meets her son, Gary, who surprises him by revealing his job. Gary is a bank manager. After a little chat with him, Mike excuses himself and heads home, which is only a block away from Nicole's house. He lives with his mother, just like Gary, but they have different jobs. Mike is a construction worker. Mike reminds his mother that his friend Ronnie's wedding is only 2 weeks away. That way Lorraine knows when to start doing her nails. After packing up some of his work supplies, Mike excuses himself again and heads to his work. He enjoys the scenery along the way, has breakfast with his friends, and does his job with great enthusiasm. Mike's evening after work is over, he's hanging out at a bar with his friends, and Roxanne suddenly shows up to say hi to him. Mike is shocked. Roxanne was his high school girlfriend who left him for college, and now she's right there in front of him. They make it a night to reunite, talking about their past and learning that they don't have children at the moment. Roxanne enjoys the night so much that she asks Mike to go somewhere quieter, and he agrees. She gives him a ride on her motorcycle until they reach a hill that has history for both of them. Mike is excited to ask Roxanne to be quiet, and he puts on her favorite song. They start dancing and sharing comfort, and at that moment Roxanne does the thing she came for. She injects him, causing him to fall unconscious. The next morning, Mike wakes up confused in a hotel room and tries to remember what happened to him. Roxanne is there to greet him, explaining that they were now in London. This is Mike's first time in the UK. Then Mike met Tom in the driveway, who immediately introduced himself as Roxanne's boss. Tom asked Mike to drive to buy some breakfast, and during the ride, Mike is given the answer to why he was kidnapped. Tom and Roxanne were members of an intelligence agency that almost no one knew existed, and it is called the Union. The Union is like the FBI, except for a few things. They did all the work and didn't wear coats with big yellow names on it. The point is, Mike would be made an agent of the Union to continue their mission. A mission that failed at the beginning. The Union didn't recruit people with high achievements. Instead, they looked for people who were under the radar. The invisible army that kept the world running. The people who built cities and kept production lines uninterrupted. That's the Union. After the three of them arrive at a cafe, Tom orders 3 bacon rolls for breakfast, while Roxanne shows Mike a picture of the traitor on her phone. His name is Derek, a former CIA analyst who escaped with classified information. Although Derek is dead, the intel has been stolen, putting the Union in big trouble. Tom then takes them to the headquarters, where Mike is again informed that in 2 weeks, a woman named Juliet, aka the auctioneer, will sell the intel on the black market in London on behalf of a mysterious seller, and the Union must be a part of it. The mysterious seller is the one who stole the intel. The headquarters is very impressive with a variety of facilities. It has a technical operating room, a room for physical training, a vehicle modification workshop, and others. Tom says that the intel contains information on every man and woman who has ever served in the Western Allied countries. If the information falls into the wrong hands, their ability to protect the public is history. Mike is introduced to Frank, the man who will train him to fight. Tom honestly doubted Mike, but Roxanne is sure that her high school friend is the right person for this mission. So, with no other options, Tom took the risk by giving him time to make a decision until the afternoon, whether Mike would join or not. Mike walked around the headquarters while arguing with Roxanne. He couldn't believe that the woman who had left him now came asking him to risk his life for her. But Roxanne denied it, asserting that this is for the Union, one operation. She gave Mike a return ticket, then left him to think. With doubts, Mike tried to ask his mother for help, who soon revealed that she knew about all this, because Roxanne had worked with her. Finally, when night fell, Mike met Roxanne and decided to join. Without wasting time, Mike is immediately given a variety of training for several days, fighting, shooting, maneuvering cars, including psychological checks. Mike is then introduced to Foreman, a computer expert who creates a new identity and cover story for him. His alias is Ed Weston, 45, from Boston, but let's just call him Mike. With that, the training process is complete, creating a new, tough, mission-ready Mike. The next day, all the team members gather to discuss how to join the auction. Although this is a blind auction that can be done remotely, participants are required to put up a cash deposit of $5 million up front in exchange for an encrypted device. To do so, Mike will be tasked with personally taking it to the auctioneer located at the Seven Dials Monument. This is a direct handover, money for the device, and Mike will be monitored by Roxanne and the others. Soon after, the teams are on standby at their respective positions watching Mike, who is at the exchange point. A man approaches Mike, asking him to follow him while HQ and the team panic due to the sudden loss of radio signal. At that moment, Roxanne realizes that another team is trying to take their device, provoking the woman to approach Mike. Entering the pub, Mike finds a cell phone under the table and receives a call from Juliet, who recognizes Mike as Ed Weston. The woman asks him to go to the bathroom to follow her further instructions, and Mike does. He meets a man who is about to count his money, while outside the third team is almost at the pub and Roxanne's actions chasing them start to make people panic. After the money is finished being counted, Juliet confirms that the device is already in Mike's hands. The phone. This is a smooth exchange. As Mike walks out of the pub, Roxanne shoots the man who intends to kill him, while Mike himself has no idea what is going on. A shootout with the third team ensues, prompting Roxanne to order Mike to save the device. Mike then runs aimlessly while being chased by two bikers, but luckily the backup team manages to get rid of them. A female fighter suddenly attacks Mike, who is off guard. They fall through the glass roof, separating Mike from the phone. When Mike picks up the phone, the woman hits him again, causing the phone to fall into the sink. Mike is strangled and unable to fight back. Fortunately, Roxanne comes to his aid, knocking the woman unconscious. A moment later, the police arrive on the scene and the team returns to headquarters. The exchange is successful, but the device is damaged after being submerged in water, and nothing can be salvaged from it. Based on the Makarov pistol, Roxanne assumes that their attackers are Russians. She speculates that Moscow has been tracking all the auctions and is trying to seize their devices. Meanwhile, Foreman suspects an inside leak after learning that their operations are frequently disrupted, but Tom denies it. He trusts the people in the room. Now that the Union can no longer participate in the auction due to the device being damaged, Roxanne suggests doing the same thing the Russians did by stealing another group's device. Regarding the security of the Western world and the future of the Union, Tom agrees at all cost. The auction is due to take place in less than 48 hours, so Tom dismisses them. At the bar, Roxanne finds Mike upset about not being able to join his friend's bachelor party. She isn't hard on him, allowing him to go home despite the mission being ruined, and besides, Tom suggests the same. But Mike refuses, determined to help the Union until the mission is complete. The next day at HQ, the Union learns that the other groups in the auction represent China, North Korea, Syria, Russia, and Iran. In addition, based on the intelligence information they obtained, the Union also learned that North Korea sent their representatives with a group of former Uni-Soviet mercenaries. Thus, the Union now plans to seize their device. As night falls, the team immediately moves to North Korea's hideout in an empty house in Hampstead. While Athena is the reconnaissance team, Roxanne, Frank, and Mike break in with Foreman. They manage to take down some of the mercenaries and get the device, but Athena suddenly doesn't respond on the radio. When they check the car, Athena is already lying unconscious. She was killed with a photo of the HQ in her hand. Roxanne realizes that HQ is in danger, so she immediately calls Tom to clear the building, but she is too late. The top floor explodes unavoidably. They immediately rush to HQ, but Tom contacts them, informing them that he survived the blast, and that they must now split up while awaiting further orders. The next day, the team reconvenes at HQ to come up with a plan to track Juliet's signal. By the time the auction starts, they need to know Juliet's location, and to do that, they have to buy time by bidding. The problem is, they don't know how much they're going to bid, so the CIA comes in to help them. They're the ones who will be funding it all. Cameron urges them to get the intel if they want to keep their jobs. A minute later, the auction finally begins. Foreman quickly tracks the signal while Roxanne rides east on her motorcycle with Mike. The bids get higher and higher, but luckily Juliet's location is already known. She's on Nichols Avenue, on the rooftop level. Soon Roxanne and Mike meet Juliet, who already knows what they're here for. But the intel is in Juliet's house, so the two agents had to take her there. Juliet immediately showed a computer containing the intel that Roxanne checked, and it's legit. A minute later, an unexpected guest arrived. It's Nick. He survived the shooting in Italy, and all this time he pretended to be dead to find out who leaked the Union information that caused their mission to continue to fail. Nick suspected Tom because in his history Tom had run a black operation with the CIA before founding the Union. Tom had done things that shouldn't be known to the public. Nick deliberately never told Roxanne because he tried to protect her from danger, because Roxanne was his wife. Yes, they were married but separated. The evidence of Tom's actions is in the intel, so Nick advised Roxanne to hand over the intel directly to the CIA, specifically to Cameron. Mike didn't believe his statement. Instead, he suspected that the traitor to the Union is Nick. But Nick denies it, setting up their meeting with the CIA for a pickup at the Albert Bridge instead. Roxanne agrees and lets Nick handle Juliet since she's just a middleman. The two agents then left Juliet's house in a stolen car. They argued during the trip because Mike didn't like the fact that Roxanne had married Nick. But Roxanne simply said that Mike's father had a problem with his son having a black girlfriend. Mike had a racist father, but on the other hand, Roxanne's father also didn't like Mike. And then they decided to separate. The next morning, Roxanne and Mike were on standby at the Albert Bridge, but Nick didn't show up. Then Nick, who was on the flight, called Roxanne, revealing that their planned meeting with the CIA is a trap to cover his escape. Yeah, Nick is the real traitor of the Union. He sacrificed Roxanne and Tom. Nick felt that what the Union gave him was never enough, leading him to who he is now. The intel had been exchanged back at Juliet's house, and now he intends to sell it to the Iranians. With great disappointment, Roxanne promised to find him soon. A moment later, Cameron and his men surround the two agents, demanding they hand over the intel. But the duo quickly jump into the river just as a cargo ship passes under the bridge. The CIA chases after the ship, but the duo has already jumped back onto the bridge, allowing them to escape capture. It turns out that Roxanne has put a GPS tracker on Nick, so she knows he is currently in Istria. But the truth is, the Union is out of the game, and the two agents are on the run from the CIA. If they are caught, they will face severe punishment for treason. Despite this, Mike promises not to leave Roxanne behind on this run, and that's when Mike has an idea of how they are going to fly to Istria. He calls his friend Bobby, a cargo flight coordinator in the US, who agrees to help him. Bobby asks his friend at the UK airport to let the two agents into one of the containers, and it goes smoothly. The human smuggler is successfully flown without any problems. Meanwhile, at CIA headquarters, Tom is berating Cameron for the misunderstanding. Tom is not happy about being caught, while the real bad guys are out there ready to sell the intel to a terrorist cell that could lead to their downfall. Arriving in Istria, Roxanne and Mike immediately follow the GPS that leads them to a coast, where they find Nick and Juliet ready to dock. The duo then follow them to a cafe. Just as Nick is about to start a transaction with the Iranian group, led by Javid, Roxanne steps in. She is determined to have Nick and Javid thrown in jail on charges of murder, espionage, and treason. Javid tries to pull his hand away, pretending to be innocent about the shady transaction, but Roxanne immediately takes action at gunpoint. Mike comes to get the intel, then speeds off on his motorcycle while the Iranian group chases him. Meanwhile, Juliet decides to postpone her business with Roxanne, then leaves with all her men, leaving Nick in Roxanne's hands. Now, Roxanne asks for Nick's cooperation to surrender, but the man gives her a surprise attack and runs away. Nick is already too far from Roxanne's reach, so the woman decides to help Mike first. She shoots the man who is strangling Mike on the roof. Then they leave the house. But Nick suddenly appears and takes Roxanne hostage, making Mike choose to drop his gun. At that moment, the Iranian group arrives by car, causing them all to scatter. Nick takes the car and runs away, and Roxanne does the same to chase him. Meanwhile, Javid manages to hit Mike and locks him in the trunk of the car, while the intel falls into the middle of the road. As Javid is about to take it, Nick comes to take the intel first, then continues his escape while being chased by Roxanne. Javid decides to join Nick's pursuit because he also wants the intel. As their cars crash into each other, Mike manages to get out of the trunk, kick Javid out of the car, then kick him again until Javid loses consciousness. Now Mike is back on the game, but Nick manages to corner Roxanne to the side of the road. Nick sees Mike coming, provoking him to graze his car, causing it to fall into a ravine. Luckily, Mike survives and continues to chase Nick with Roxanne. Approaching the dock, Nick opens fire, but Roxanne simply jumps out of the car, causing Nick to fall to avoid being hit. Roxanne urges Nick to surrender, but the man won't listen, so Roxanne is forced to shoot him, causing the man to fall into the water and die instantly. Finally, the two agents manage to save the intel, ending the mission successfully. The next day at Ronnie's wedding, Mike gives his honorary speech as best man. He is proud that his best friend has finally found the woman he will love for the rest of his life. Meanwhile, Roxanne apparently still has feelings for Mike, so now they are trying to rekindle the feelings that once existed between them. As they are about to leave the party, Tom appears before them, offering Mike a job in Marrakesh. He agrees, but first Roxanne and Mike ask for some vacation time, and Tom agrees. Thanks for watching.